Hey, welcome back to the Shade Tree, where we are continuing our 1955 Willys wagon build. I think we finally turned the corner now that we have this body somewhat mounted on this chassis. We are still waiting for the front rubber mounts to come in. We're going to get the engine and transmission mounted back in permanently. I got the old S10 transmission mount in there. I don't know if it's going to work or not. It looks like it may work. We may have to cut a little bit of it out to make it work for us the way we need it to work, but I think that's the way we're going to go with it. Once we get that mounted in, we can get the front clip back on. We'll know exactly what we have to do to this core to make the radiator we have fit in there and, you know, be able to clearance the pulleys. So also this week we're gonna do the front mounts as soon as they come in. We're gonna clean up the firewall, fill in all the holes, doing whatever we need to do to get it cleaned up and at least get primer on it so that we don't have to mess too much with it after the engine goes in. And then we get to start the thing that I've been dreading the most. Massive metal work. And I mean massive. If you've been watching, you know what I'm talking about. You know, we're gonna do our best. But that is the goal for this episode, so let's see how far we can get. Okay, I guess this means we officially started body work, huh? Got most of the holes filled. We're going to keep that open because I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. I still have the old heater core and the old fan unit. Not sure if they work, but we got them. Wiper motor should go on the inside, but I don't know yet, so we're going to leave that open. We got a couple of grommet holes for fishing wires through. I wanted to at least get this primed before we put the engine and transmission in there. Okay, we got the S10 Crossmember bolted back in, and it looks like it's gonna work. Hopefully it does. I mean, we might have to figure out how to adapt this mount to it. Whether we have to drill a couple holes in that or whatever, or extend it, or whatever we got to do to get it to bolt to the bottom of that transmission. All right, we got our polyurethane suspension bushings in. Not rubber, polyurethane. Anyway, that's what we're using. I went and mocked one up. Let me just show you how we're going to do this. Get that in there, just like that. Okay. We need something to mount it to, so I've got these other pieces that came off somewhere on this frame. I don't remember where exactly, but it has a threaded bolt hole. All we're going to do is cut it here and weld this to the frame so we can bolt that to it. So let me get to doing that. Well, all I can say is thank God for the guy who invented the grinder. All right, we have successfully mounted this body on this chassis. She's on there solid now. Got our brackets made. Dressed them up a little bit. Ground them down the best I could with the grinder I had. I got to get me one of those little die grinders with a little wheel on it so I can get in the little nooks and crannies. Located set of heads here locally off the marketplace in London, Kentucky, about a half hour from me. I got a bunch of parts that came in, and I went through all my old small block Chevy parts. Got a couple of water pumps. I think I'm going to use this one. Just did a restoration on a water neck. Oil filler necks we can choose from. This old intake we had taken off the old 46 Chevy. I think it'll work just great for us. Got two carburetors in the garage that we can choose from. I think I'm going to use the Howie. The shifter for the transmission, new distributor, and plug wires. So we're just about ready to put this thing together. I did loosen these mounts because we need another inch of clearance. Here's where they were, and here's where we're going to need them to be in order for our radiator to fit in there. I'm hoping that it'll give us just that little bit more clearance. I don't think we can take it back any farther. If we have to add a little more metal to the back sides of them to shore them up, we'll do that. I'm going to go through all my old wiring. I know I've got a couple of harnesses that I took out of old vehicles. One that I had taken out of a vehicle was fairly new. It was put together, but it was all new wiring and new fuse block and everything. So let's go through the wiring and see what we actually have to work with. All right, let's see what we got to work with here. A couple of cables. You'd be surprised at the amount of junk you accumulate. Well, it's not really junk, but the amount of stuff you can accumulate when you start doing these old vehicles. Another cable. This is a complete wiring harness. I believe this came out of the 66 Comet we did, Mercury Comet. There isn't a whole lot of circuits here, but and their fuses, I don't really want to use that. You don't have to, the old fuses. But there is a lot of wire we can use, so that's good. This here is also wire. This one has a newer fuse block. I really don't remember what this came out of, to be honest with you. But it is still somewhat intact. This is a good possibility right here. This, I believe, is just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff. There's a lot of cable in here. Some old tail lights. Good heavy cable though. So really not much in this box. So I'm kind of thinking this fuse block and the wire that's with it, along with the wire that we have from the old Comet harness, we should have enough stuff here to put together a wiring harness for this Jeep. So really, the only thing I'm waiting on are the gaskets coming for the engine. Head gaskets, we can get those heads on. Water pump gasket, whatever. Intake gaskets. So as soon as those gaskets get here, we'll get back to work. Well, it would seem that I misplaced my torque spec sheet, so I'll have to go back in the house and see if I can download that again. But before we do that, I want to get the lifters back in here before I forget. We've had them marinating for a couple of days. Alright, we got our torque specs. Each site's going to tell you something different. I don't know, man. We're going to do 30, 50, and 65 foot-pounds. And I'll be back when that's done. Alright, we are on our last pass. Started with 30, went to 50, and now we're on 65 foot-pounds of torques. Okay, we do the other side and then the heads will be officially on. Okay, heads are on. Torque to 65 foot-pounds. I don't have valve covers to put on yet anyway, so before we put valve covers on, we'll go ahead and torque them again to 65 foot-pounds. So I guess the next thing we're going to do is set the valve lash. I did not set the intake yet because I want this to sit overnight so we can go and retorque the heads tomorrow, redo our valve lash before we put that intake on. I think that's going to do for today. Tomorrow we'll get back at it and hopefully get the transmission together, get it mated up to the engine, and hopefully if those valve covers come in, we'll get this thing all put together and we'll stab this baby in. Alright, we were back at it again today. I got the heads retorqued, got the valve lash all set, so we're going to go ahead and get the intake on this thing, get the valve covers on it, get the flex plate back on, put our transmission together, torque converter, blah blah blah, and we're going to see if we can put this thing together and get it in the chassis today. Alright, she's starting to look like something now. Got the water pump on, valve covers on, intake on. I got the lift plate on. We're going to pull it off the engine stand and put the flex plate on so we can throw our torque converter in our transmission and put this thing together and do our thing, man. Alright, we're going to go ahead and throw this flex plate on. I'm going to be using orange Loctite because that's all I have. I think it'll be just fine. And this also gets torqued to 65 foot-pounds. Boom, just like that. Okay, so I was getting ready to mate up this transmission with the engine, and I remembered the last time this engine ran, it only had like 20 pounds of oil pressure, and I was thinking that was because of the pickup tube in the bottom. The screen was plugged. Went and got us a new pickup tube for it, so we're going to get this thing installed. We also have to get our oil pump distributor drive gear thingy in, so we got to do that too. So it's a good thing I remembered to get that because we didn't have one. All right, got the new oil pump installed, new pickup tube. Bought the whole thing, so we just put the whole new pump in, new pickup tube. I don't believe there's anything wrong with the old one, but this pickup tube looks like somebody stepped on it. It's all crushed in. So, oh, and also I believe that this pickup tube was not far enough down in the pan. That could have been part of the issue of the low oil pressure. I don't know, but I measured from the block to the bottom of the pickup tube, measured the inside of the pan. I gave it like 1/4 of an inch. It will end up being about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, which I think is good. You don't want to suck up too much crap if there's, you know, anything in the bottom of that pan. You don't want to pull it in. So go ahead and clean this pan up, throw it back on, and we'll continue to build. I tell you what, if you don't think that isn't a job by yourself, it'd like to wore me out. I don't like this aftermarket fill tube. It doesn't seem like it's in the right position, I don't think. We'll have to bend it to our will, and see, it's not sitting down in there right, so I think we're probably gonna have a leak there. You may have to take this off and kind of rebend it a little bit, retweak it as it were. So let me do that. Let me get this fill tube right. Let me finish putting the rest of the bolts in this bell housing, and I think it might be just about time to try to put this thing in the chassis. Let's see what we got, man. I think that's going to flatten it out. Need something round to put it on. It's a little bit better. We just got to do a little bit here at the top. Don't get the dipstick out. Yeah, I think it sits flatter in there now, and it's not hitting the engine anymore. I think we'll go with that for right now. All right, I think we're ready to put her in. See what we got. All right, well, she's close to going in, but as you can see, that crossmember is not going to work at all in its current configuration. The pan's hitting already. We can cut that off. That's not the issue. I just think the way it's designed, it's not going to let the transmission sit square in there. I want to see if I can get it down onto the motor mounts, or real close, and we'll get a good look at it then. Well, we got both motor mounts in. Successfully moved it back about an inch and a quarter. I think we got plenty of room for distributor. I've got a set of regular manifolds. I don't know if we can get headers in there. That's the issue I had the last time I did this. I have these Chinese manifolds. I'm willing to bet that the passenger side probably won't be an issue, but the driver's side probably will. These were something that were ordered by accident and I just never sent them back. There's not an issue on this side. Matter of fact, they fit pretty good on this side. As you can see, because of the angle you have to put these manifolds on, pushes the steering out, so it's just not going to work. Let's get a set of those block hugger headers, the cheap ones. They worked on the 46. I'm sure with a little hammer persuasion they would work here too. And again, it's just the driver's side. The steering linkage is always in the way. Well, upon a second look at this cross member, we might be able to get this thing to work. Let me just get you under here to show you. We got the motor mounts in, so the engine is where it needs to be. But you can see here, if we cut this plate off and we notched that right where that corner of that pan is, cut that corner out, that would drop the transmission down almost to where it needed to be for our pinion angle. And then we could just fabricate some kind of a mount here, cutting this all out here all the way down so we can drop this pan down. So basically it would basically almost be resting where this plate would be. Maybe we can adapt the transmission mount we have for this transmission onto this cross member. But we're gonna have to do some cutting and welding on it to make it work. This is our starter. This is a 168 tooth starter. So this flex plate is 168 tooth, so we shall put this starter on here and see what happens. I'd like to get the radiator core in with the radiator in it, just to see how much room we've got. I know it's going to be close. Call this a success for today. So we're underneath the old Willys. Let's see if we can make this transmission cross member do what we need it to do. She's just about where she needs to be as far as center goes. We need to cut here. I'm thinking of taking it out. Probably this little section right here. I'm gonna take it out. That'll allow that pan to drop down. Right here is where it ends. Somehow get the mount that we have for the transmission to fit onto this cross member. So let me go unbolt this thing, get a jack under the transmission, and we'll get this thing out and get it cut. All right, got the cross member out, got it marked where we need to cut it out. I'm kind of thinking that maybe once we cut this out, cut this off, we can just reposition it on the inside here. It already conveniently has a hole already there. I just don't know about the positioning of it. So we get this cut out first, get this cut off, and probably reposition it back over here on this side, closer to this side. Kind of thinking that's going to work. It's all trial and error, I guess. Let's cut it out, see what we got. All right, got the pieces cut out. I should have just cut it all the way out and welded a flat piece of metal in there so we'd have something to mount our transmission, mount this to. We may end up doing that. I want to stick it in now just to see what it looks like. Let's do that. Let me let this jack down a little and we'll see how we're clearance in here. I think the pan is still going to hit right here. About the only thing we can do is notch that corner so the pan sits down farther in. We're going to have to put a plate here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out like I said. And put a flat plate in there. Finish cutting this off. Cut this off. And I think it's going to work. Alright, we got her cut out all the way. You can see the pan's going to clear. You see the pan will clear now. Figure out how to get this thing onto here. And basically, I think if we took this, the thing we cut off, we could possibly weld a plate across that. This is pretty thick stuff, so it's not going to go anywhere. Now All right, so I just ended up using the bracket that we took off and just slid it down. You got it just lined up where it needs to be. There is our hole, or bolt hole. Anything about it is we're going to have to re-drill, because where it was in that position isn't going to work for us here now with this basically making our own bolt holes. We can't use the existing ones because of the positioning of it, but it's going to work. It does line up now. We're going to go ahead and call that another win. Let me get to drilling on this, see if we can't get this thing bolted in. And one more major hurdle is down. All right, guys, so engine and transmission are in, bolted in. We got the Crossmember bolted in. I still got a few more holes to drill out on the one side, but she's bolted in. I'm kind of thinking we're going to go ahead and throw the carb on here, throw the distributor in, get it all ready to wire and fire. Well, our choices for carburetor are this old Holly or Chinese Quadrajet. And I think we're going to try the old Holly first. I'm pretty sure that the electric choke on this one does not work. We'll give this one a try before we use that Quadrajet. I think I have a little more faith in this one. So we'll throw this one on. When we go to fire it up, if it doesn't do what we want it to do, we do have another choice. This is one of those Mr. Gasket base gaskets. I don't know, it's supposed to be compatible, but I don't know. Seems like everything you buy nowadays is junk, so we'll see. Well, if I can never get it out of the package, that is, without ripping it. So there's an issue with this. We got the threads stripped out in this one, and then this one over here. I guess we're going to take the next step up and tap the hole and do all that good stuff. Well, there she is, fellas, and ain't she purty? And she's telling me she can't wait to go to a car show, okay? For ice cream. We have successfully transplanted the 350 engine, 350 transmission into this chassis for our 1955 Willys wagon build. This week we successfully put the engine and transmission in, did the front body mounts, cleaned up the firewall. Next week we have to get the radiator mounted into the core support, get the front clip back on it, get the radiator hooked up, get our electrical fan in there, throw some wire on this thing, throw a little juice down our gullet. Let's see if we can fire this thing off next time. Goal for next week: front clip, wiring and firing. And then, you know, we got the tons of body work to do, but I think getting this thing together and possibly firing this engine off, making sure the drivetrain is good, is probably the most important part. And yes, I'm putting off all this body work. This is more important, to get to get the drivetrain right, get it going. So didn't get quite as much as I wanted to get done, but that's always the way. So as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you know somebody that would like to check out this Frankenstein type Willys V8 swap newer chassis build, give them the link. And until next time, man, take it easy.